And I just think that as easy it is to fall in love with the material things about having nice things, being able to have drive a nice car, live in a nice house, I think that's all great. But if you're not doing well as a person, as a human, I think that's the wealthiest thing you can have is just being comfortable with who you are in your own skin, surrounding yourself with people that you love, believing in something bigger than yourself, and just really trying to put a lot more love back in the world. I think that's real wealth at the end of the day.
All right, Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it, man. We were teammates at the University of South Dakota, Division One FCS school, and you dominated at USD, and then went on to get drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. What was it like going from USD and FCS school, being one of the first people from George Little Rock, Iowa, to even play Division One football, then go to the NFL? I mean, what was that transition like going from USD to the Falcons?
I think it was a lot faster.
Mm.
Even though the one AA competitions is great, the speed was a significant difference. So that was the biggest. That was like the most shock to me. Is like, okay, at the one AA level, being one of the high caliber athletes there, you I feel like you have a little bit of an advantage.
Mm.
But when I was, I remember my first day of fall camp at Atlanta, it's like, oh, shock. I was like, wow, like everybody's big, everybody's strong, everybody's fast. So that was like the biggest like kind of wake up call for me, for sure.
Mm. Mm. And it was crazy because that first year you were there, wasn't that the year the Falcons got featured on Hard Knocks?
Yeah, it was. So I was super fortunate enough to be a feature in Hard Knocks. Um, it's kind of a little bit of a love hate relationship there because as much as I appreciated the exposure, appreciated the experience, that it was also a little bit of a distraction. So, for instance, and I appreciate NFL films and everything, but after practice, having to do interviews, coming in early, doing interviews, and then there's always kind of a stigma behind it, and other like players, maybe there's some envy there, and it just I feel like as grateful as I was for it, it did kind of distract me for like the purpose I was there, was to become a great football player and make the roster and play for the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, it's got to be overwhelming. You're coming into the highest level in the world of football. You got to come and learn a new playbook, bigger, more complex than any playbook you had experienced in college or before. And you're trying to learn this. You're trying to compete with guys at a caliber that, again, are next level, that you haven't faced that level of competition ever, all on top of trying to uh, be pretty and say the right things to the Hard Knocks team. Like, I can't imagine taking that on.
Yeah, it's at that level, you're really under a microscope. And I will give a shout out to the NFL, the NFLPA. They do the rookie symposium where we, go to Cleveland or go to Ohio, and they basically put us through like a 4-day event where we with financial advisors, every resource that you could have possible, to give you the best advantage you can have towards success. So I was really grateful for that, but at the same time, you know, being a big shock, and just kind of like understanding it's a lot more of a business than it is like a sport. That was like kind of like one thing that I noticed right away. It was like, okay, oh, this is different.
Mm.
This isn't just showing up with your boys, having fun, playing the game you love. You have to love the game, but now it's like you have to operate as your own like LLC, like your own corporation. Like
Mhm.
you are your own brand. Like so everything you do is going to be judged. It's going to be ridiculed if you do something wrong. Like I said, under a microscope for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I never had the opportunity to play in the NFL. Quite frankly, wasn't good enough to make it there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, you are the brand. I, the stress that must come along with playing professionally in any sport, it has to be so high because your body's on the line. It's you against you in regards to making that team. But not only is it you, you're having to support your family by how you perform. So if you're injured, if you don't ball out in that training camp, the risk is really high if you're not making the team. So all of that stress and all of that what's the word I'm looking for? All of that weight is on your back while you're just trying to go make the team and ball.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I ended up running into was um, I think the biggest thing where I kind of made that kind of term, that over the hill moment, for me was like, okay, so like now that I understand what this is, right? I created this kind of awareness within myself, my ability, and where I was, which was playing for the Atlanta Falcons. That kind of helped me create a plan. And I was fortunate enough to have incredible coaches, incredible teammates, all through this process, trainers. The Atlanta Falcons organization is a great organization. I was fortunate enough to play under Coach Smith and Coach Quinn. And I tell you what, there's not a lot of men out there like Coach Quinn. I mean, this guy was out here working with, he was a D line guy. I was a D line guy. So he was working with me for 20 minutes after practice. I mean, if you're working drills one on one with the head coach, I mean, not only does it give you confidence, but it helps you buy into like really their mission.
Mm.
And that was really cool. And that team went on to go in and compete for a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, Tom Brady pulled some witchcraft and beat us in a quarter and a half. But
As Tom Brady does.
as he does, yeah. But he's a goat. So
Yeah. Well, along those lines, Tyler, you talk about Coach Quinn, and he has an incredible reputation around the NFL. And I'm constantly talking about the differences between great coaches and average coaches, great leaders in organizations, great CEOs and average CEOs. I mean, what were the things that set Coach Quinn apart that stood out to you that made him such a great coach?
well, I think that Coach Quinn really lived what he was speaking, which was really important to us. Like he was willing to get in the trenches, work with us. He was able to level with us. He was a real players coach. He's like, hey, if you ball out for me, if you play for me, he goes like, I'm all about taking care of you guys. So like whether that's hey, we're gonna have instead of a full pad practice, we'll have a shells practice. Which was great, because I think a lot of guys bought into that. One notable experience that I had, which uh, I mean, I remember and tell everybody that I know, is he brought in a team of Navy SEALs. So we did some APG training, and in spring training we brought in Navy SEALs for 2 weeks, and we were assigned boat crews, just like they do in buds training, just like Navy SEAls do, trying to wean out the weak. Similar situation, obviously, brotherhood, a team sport. What we do is we would section everybody off by height and boat crews 1 through 8, 9, 10, kind of depending on how many people you had. But we would do similar training that the Navy SEALs would do, whether that's mental training or physical training. I mean, I'm talking all about how to handle high stress situations, how to kind of create scenarios and understand scenarios, because that's what football is. At this level, we're basically, you're given the tools here, but it's your job, to sharpen them and know how to use them.
Mhm.
And I think Dan Quinn did a great job on being able to um, put us in the right position to have success. And through this APG training with the Navy SEALs, what we did is that, you're only as strong as your weakest link. That's really what it taught us. I mean, I'm talking, we had a crew of, I had Julio Jones to my left and I had Matt Ryan to my right, as far as, I went by height, and we're carrying this log. I mean, 12 foot long. I mean, it's as big as I can wrap my head around, and we're having to carry this thing. And he goes, one of the first drills we had, is prepare to up log. We had to repeat, prepare to up log. And we all, as a team, have to pick these logs up, right? And then you chest them, and then you shoulder them, and then we did different drills. Like one of them was just you had a bear arm, double underhook, and you had to walk around three practice fields. Well, we got 3 times around, and then the Navy SEAL guy is like, "You have to prepare for the unexpected. It's overtime." So it's 95 degrees out. It's so humid, and we're like, "Oh no!" Like we're all about to drop. But you know what? There was something about it. We all just kind of relied on each other, dug in, and I think that that's really what created a Super Bowl caliber team. I think just creating, one goal, one mindset, one team, and Dan Quaid was able to do that for us. So we had a shot at the title.
Wow, wow. That's so powerful. I mean, you said so much there. But one thing that stuck out was you're only as strong as your weakest link. And in business, we see it all the time because we saw it in sports as well in regards to you're only as strong as your weakest link. Now, what is your weakest link? It could be a people issue, meaning that this person doesn't fit your culture. They're kind of a cancer to the organization. They don't necessarily respect the coaches. They're not bought in. When that happens, then that is so contagious. And then other players start to adopt it. And then guess what? There's not a chance of you being successful. The other piece in being a weak link is right seat. Are you, Tyler Starr, in your best position as a defensive end or as an outside linebacker where you can go out and roam a little bit? If your players aren't in the right seat or the right position on the field where they can excel to the best of their abilities using their unique abilities in sports, speed, quickness, agility, intelligence, experience to thrive in that position. In business, it's having the business acumen. Are you a sales guy? Are you an ops guy? You're a project management person. It's so important to have not only the right person who fits that culture, but also the right seat or the right position where that person can thrive. And if you don't have both of those, then to your point, you have one weak link on the team, it can make the whole thing fall apart.
No, you're 100% right. And for instance, I'll give you an example. So we had a receiver come in. You know, his first name is Blanken, but his last name was Godwin. He plays for the Cowboys now. Came in as a receiver, and our coaches were kind of evaluating him. We didn't really have a spot for him at receiver. We knew he liked him. We knew he had a talent. He had all the right measurables, and we came in and we moved him to DB. And he was a tall kid, athletic, long, strong, and he just thrived. And that was the perfect example of Coach Gwen saying, "Hey, like maybe I like this guy. Maybe he's not in the right seat, right spot, right seat." And we moved to DB and then special teams, and he's played 14 years now in the league,
Wow.
which is insane.
Wow.
Just a stud. And that goes to show. I think that's a great correlation from athletics and business. Is just understanding your team, understanding your depth chart, and that's no different than understanding who your employees are and making sure that their skill sets, their strengths and weaknesses, and putting them in the right position to succeed within the company. But also making that hard decision where if they're not fit for the company or not fit for the seat, it's okay to trim the fat and understand like respectfully, hey, I just don't think you're a good fit, but here's kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, business like a professional sports, it's cutthroat. It's for profit. You're trying to make money, and in that case, you can't keep people around just because you like them or because they fit their culture. If they aren't balling out or if they aren't succeeding in their role, then unfortunately, a change has to be made. And I love also what you talked about in the Navy SEALs aspect and how Coach Quinn brought the SEALs to help train you guys, not only from a physical standpoint, but also you and I are huge believers in Jocko Willink and his philosophy of extreme ownership and teaching the people within an organization to adopt extreme ownership, meaning that if you're a leader and you're leading people, there's no one else to blame but yourself. If you can get every team member to accept responsibility to their actions and cultivate that idea of, okay, maybe my director of sales, dropped the ball and didn't make many sales this month. Well, guess what? Who's giving him the tools? Who's giving him the resources? Who's guiding him? That's not on him. That's on me for him not succeeding. And that is what extreme ownership is all about, which I can only imagine was a big piece of what they talked about during camp.
Yeah, 100%. So to kind of piggyback off that, so as far as the extreme ownership aspect of things, there's one book that was we were basically mandatory to read, and it was The Inner Game of Tennis. And what that is basically a battle between your self one and self two. Self one being, hey, I'm telling myself, I have these thoughts in my brain saying, hey, this is what you do. Hey, I need to break on this play. I need to break on that play. But as Michael Jordan's talked about in his book, is saying like you create this, you become in the zone. There's this special place in athletics, and I think also in business is where like you just everything's working out, you're doing the right things, and you just kind of get into this place where like you're almost operating just without even having to think about it. You just kind of like, this is muscle memory or whatever it is, and trying to find that place where like, hey, if you're having to tell yourself to do something, it's too late, especially in sports because it's fast, it's quick, it's intense. Businesses do it. Is like sometimes if you overthink things, you can really overcomplicate them.
Hmm.
So I think the biggest thing is to create awareness in your life, right? Create some discipline and some intention on what we're doing. I think the biggest thing is awareness. And my coach Jeff Albrook, he played 10 years for the 49ers, and he was my linebacker coach. This thing stuck with me for a long time. He goes, "Know yourself, know your worth." You know what I mean? If you're honest with yourself, you're aware with what you're capable of doing. He goes, that will take you to wherever you need to go. He goes, but if you don't understand that, you think you're bigger than you are, you let your ego run your decisions, it's only going to get you in trouble. You're going to outkick your coverage, and you're going to be in a bad spot. You're going to be backed up, you know, first and 10 on the one.
Hmm.
Stuff. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think self-awareness is one of the most important characteristics that anyone in any industry, in any sport, needs to adopt to be successful. It's okay, this is what I'm thriving at. These are the characteristics that make me great. But even more importantly, these are my weaknesses. These are things that I'm not so great at. And so, how do I get better at those things? And, I look back at my football career, and that's one piece that I lacked at is I didn't pay enough detail to the pieces that I was weak at. I was strong at these things. They were easy for me. So that's all I did. But then I left these other pieces that needed the actual work to work on. And so self-awareness is absolutely everything. And in business, it's the same thing. Are you, are you a talking person? Are you an extrovert where you can go out and make sales and do biz dev? Are you detail oriented, really organized so you can project manage? Becoming self aware is going to make it so you can get into that flow state a lot more easily in your position so you're not working so hard at whatever job you're actually doing.
you know, I agree with that, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges as professionals face, because the one roadblock that we all have, and if you don't have it, you're lying, is ego, and humility. Like, don't be afraid to admit that, hey, even if you're in a position where you're overseeing people, right? You have a lot of responsibility. It's not a weakness to admit that, hey, I gotta do some more work on in my role, in my position, to better understand how I can help this team, and just create some, surrender your ego a little bit. Like, understand that, it's okay to not know everything. Like, that's totally fine. No one knows everything, and the quicker you understand that and get over your pride and be like, you know what, instead of just riding my high horse, barking orders and putting the blame on everyone else, you take extreme ownership and you say, hey, how can I, reflect that inwards and be like, hey, what can I do better to put my team in the best position to succeed?
Hmm. Absolutely, Tyler. Well, and that helps us segue really well to when you got done with the NFL. Um, I want to talk about that transition to where it led you because you had this ego of being this incredible football player. You reached the highest caliber, and then it was all taken away from you. And so, your ego probably took a big shot at that point. And so, I want to talk about what was that like transitioning from the NFL to your professional career after football. Yeah, just talk through what that looked like.
Yeah. So, I guess, I do you want to get into all of it? Is this what we're here doing?
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it.
So, the biggest thing that, I'll just kind of speak on first, my experience, and then kind of like how I reflected off that experience. So when I got there, my entire life, I knew, I wanted to play football at the professional level. I don't care what it took. The idea of not making it didn't even exist in my head.
Mhm.
Now, I think there's an advantage to that and a disadvantage. The advantages are your focus,
Mhm.
hyper focus. This is what you want. Everything you do, every decision you make is putting you towards that goal. I think that the disadvantages to that are putting all your eggs in one basket.
Mhm.
Um, Understanding that there is life after football, no matter what. It's a young man's league. It always has been. Um, I think, going into that, I would have been better. It would have better transitioned me into real life, because I was living a dream. I mean,
Mhm.
very few people get to experience what I got to experience. I'm so grateful for the organizations that let me in, the NFL. I mean, everything. Like, it just was a dream come true. Now, I think also leading up to that, while you're in it, while you're having this success, um, you kind of create this identity behind it, that that's who you are. Because if you're working for towards something for so long, I mean, you naturally, I mean, become that person. I mean, for instance, like these actors, they study for roles for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and they have issues trying to, detach and deconstruct this person that they've created to build this role.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now imagine that for 15 to 16, 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
Guys who play 12, 15 years in the league, that's 30 years for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the work it takes to create this persona, this person, this lifestyle, this image of yourself to yourself. I mean, 30 years is a long time. I mean, you're talking about the over the more than majority of these guys' life. My life for sure. I remember at 7 years old, I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I retired at 24. I mean, that wasn't near as what some of these guys are, but like, you know, we it's tough because on one hand, it's like if you don't believe in yourself and totally commit to this process and in this dream, then there's always that like lingering like fallback, like, oh, it's okay, I can do this. So there, that does play into the role of like how you perform and how you're going to chase your dream. So you kind of have to be all in, but you also like to be realistic. And I think that we need to incorporate this a lot more in like these young athletes, and especially the college level, is just, creating understanding is like, hey, you know what? I want you to be all in. This is your dream. Chase it for by all means. But at the same time, you have to also understand that you have to set yourself up for life after, basketball, football, track, volleyball, whatever it is, hockey. Like there is going to be an end date. This is going to come to an end at some point. And I think that the more we can do to put our athletes, our brothers, sisters, children, cousins, sisters, teammates, whatever it is, in the position to succeed after that, I think that's what we need to focus on. Yes, do everything you can to be successful in that sport, in that time, become a professional, play as long as you can, please. I would love that. But at the same time, there is life after football. And let's be honest, for the majority of the athletes at any professional level, is normal and you're done. You're not, very few guys are making these $100 million contracts. It's just, that's just what it is. So like, as much as you can dedicate your life to one thing and one goal and your dream is awesome, but at the same time, um, we have to create some boundaries and being like, hey, like, just so you know, like, this is great, like, support you 100%, but like, you know, say you get cut tomorrow and don't get picked up. Have you thought about that? Are
Mm-hmm.
you dealing with that? It's for me, I was a football player my entire life. That was my identity. And when that gets taken away from you, and from my experience, it was not on my own terms. It was due to an injury. Like I didn't get to retire happily and be like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm parting ways on my end. I'm the whole press conference." No, it was just one day. It was gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was tough. That was that's been the biggest challenge in my life. So it's just one of those things that I think that needs to have more attention brought to it for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I faced all sorts of identity issues when I got done playing at USD and I didn't make the NFL. In the exact for all the same reasons that you just mentioned, I put all my eggs in the basket of making the NFL, and then when that dream fell short, I was distraught. Although I was a great student in college, I studied finance. I had opportunities. I couldn't see those opportunities because all I could focus on was no, I'm a football player.
Mhm.
And actually, to bring light and make it a little less heavy, I just watched Happy Gilmore too, and it just cracks me up on how he's playing golf. And he's like, "I'm a hockey player," that's his identity. And so when I didn't make the NFL, it's like you get depressed, you get lost, you don't think that you have any value in life because you think that that was the only way that people valued you was how you performed on Saturdays or how you performed on Sundays. And so literally for me it was hard to even go out in Sioux Falls, my hometown, and show face because I'm like, I'm a failure. And so, absolutely, there needs to be a bigger focus on preparing student athletes, preparing pro players for life after sports, because, as to your point, it is inevitably coming. And so, what was the next step for you after the NFL? Where did you go? What happened?
So, um, the full disclosure story is I got hurt in the last game. I tore my right hip to pieces, bone spurs, completely tore the cartilage throughout my entire hip. And I could have had to make a decision. There was a couple of offers like, hey, do you want to do injections and try to get on a team? And I'm just like, I don't know. I already had shoulder surgery. So I decided, like, hey, let's just get it fixed and we'll see where it goes. And as after I had surgery, I ended up coming back to Sioux Falls in like late 2016. So we moved back to Sioux Falls late 2016. And my wife at the time, was super supportive and helped me out, through all of it. And then made a journey to try and play in the spring league when the spring league was kind of in its early days, just kind of just getting started out. Great organizations now, the UFL, and great league, and great people who run it. And I just kind of had an injury at practice at the UFL, and I just kind of had to make a choice, like, hey, I don't know if my body can hold up. Even though it was my dream, it just kind of seemed like I need to switch gears at this point. Um, so I made that decision to, kind of close my football career and um, wanted to focus on the next step of my life, being a father, being a husband, and finding that new career that really drove me passionately, which is hard. Like it's it's really hard to, like, when there's something that you're the most passionate about, and nothing will ever compare to the passion you have for this one thing, and trying to, like, talk yourself and work through these things. And I guess the one thing I will promote is, hey, don't be afraid to reach out to counseling, don't be afraid to ask for some help. There's plenty of resources out there for you guys, especially guys who are getting out of the NFL. The NFLPA has so many resources, and we're working on starting things for the NCAA. And I hope that the NCAA is starting to kind of wake up to, like, this pandemic. I mean, like, literally, there's guys like, okay, maybe 5%, 10% of the team is going to go play professionally. But what happens to all these other guys who committed most of their life to this game? Like, what programs are set up for them? So that's really what I'm passionate about. But as far as my experience, it was just after I knew football was over for me, it was just okay. Where do I go from here? And fortunately enough, my ex-wife now at the time, but she's just like, hey, you just need to just choose something and just go for it. You're gonna have success whatever you do. So we kind of sat down, found a couple things, and I got to the local trades, and I became an electrician. I went to the local 426, and it just kept me busy, kept me focused. I was able to provide for my family, and and then she's like, well, what do you want to do from here? And she was always great at giving me advice and kind of showing me the way and helping me succeed. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep opening doors along the way. So I went back to school. Fortunately, the NFLPA and AthLife helped former athletes pay for college. So I went to get my construction management degree and minor in architectural engineering. And okay, so I kind of found my way progressing through the construction industry, which I was familiar with. And that just led to, like, more opportunities, and I started, like, really finding out who I was along that way, um, and really kind of brought me here to where I am today. It helped me, like, kind of dial in, like, hey, what's your skill set outside of football, like, professionally, in the professional world, in the business world, like, what are you good at? What do you care about? What are you passionate about? Like, what path do you want to follow? And so it's kind of brought me to that business development role, that vice president role, um, creating and dealing with the oversight of businesses. So,
That's so awesome, Tyler. What a journey, man. What a journey. And how did football set you up to succeed in business?
um, I think that, like I said, I'll refer to Jeff Albrecht, my linebacker coach. is become comfortable being uncomfortable, because you're always gonna have uncomfortable situations in your life, and you have to kind of be able to learn how to sit in it and just understand, like, hey, what's making me uncomfortable, and is it something I'm doing, or what can I do better? Is not to be afraid to go outside of kind of your parameters, or where your comfort level is, and push yourself and not be afraid to fail. I think football has taught me that also at the end of the day, football is a business. So in order to have a successful business, you have to produce. So, at Atlanta, every team meeting we have on defense, there's a production chart, just like a business would have. So you're getting, evaluated every day in every aspect of your life, whether, hey, what'd you weigh in when you showed up? What'd you have for breakfast? What'd you weigh in when you went to practice? What'd you weigh out when you got done with practice? And then if they will say, hey, I lost 2 pounds in practice, you're not leaving the facility until you replenish those 2 pounds,
Mm,
whether it's Gatorade, food, IVs, or whatever. And I think what it did was it really just taught me how to like be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I
mm.
think that's what business is like push yourself to your limits. Like, don't be afraid to take a risk. If you believe in something, you go for it. If you fail, that's so what. Recap, learn what your mistakes were, and go for it again.
Mm. I love that. I love that. And it kind of goes back to there's no losses in life, only lessons.
Mhm.
It's all about failing faster. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations where there is the possibility of failure, because if you fail and you learn, you are growing as a human being, you're growing in your craft and you're getting better. But it's all about showing up after that failure, right? If you show up with that same persistence of when you started, then you're going to keep elevating, and you're going to eventually get to where you want to get. But unfortunately, most people, after they experience that first failure, they just stop, like, oh, I couldn't do it. Or they don't have the confidence and the strength to be in that uncomfortable situation. And so they never pursue whatever's on their heart in the first place. So it's cultivating the courage to be uncomfortable, to put yourself out there in pursuit of your dreams.
Absolutely. And I mentioned, some of the good things that happened, but like, and I don't know if this is, if you want to transition to
Mm.
this, but like some of the harder things that I had to work through, if you want to speak on those, I
Mhm.
can talk to. So, one of the things was, okay, so now we talked about these identity laws, right? And these internal struggles that I had after, being so dedicated to this one thing. It was one dream my entire life. And then all of a sudden that dream all of a sudden coming to an end, you know, I think what happened was, I didn't have the right support system behind me, or I let my ego decide and say, this is this, hey, you can do this, you can fine get through this. And after the NFL, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, that was a very dark time for me. I mean, when you go through something, when your dream comes to an end, and now you're only 25 years old and you have a lot of life left to live, you have a family to provide for. A lot of stuff transpires. And for me personally, I unfortunately had a struggle with addiction. Something that I thought was helping me actually became something I became dependent upon. It was my medication. And, it seemed like, well, I'm just going to take this because it makes me feel good, and I started isolating myself and creating this kind of this world of like, uh, just secluding everybody who actually cared about me, everyone who actually wanted to help me out. And I feel like the person pulling the strings in that was just my ego, just being like, why can't I don't need to ask for help, I don't need to surround myself with good people. I don't need to take care of myself. Like, I just got caught up in this whirlwind of emotions and like self identity to try and like, and then unfortunately I turned to drugs and alcohol to try and heal myself, and also it pushed me away from what was really important to me, like my family, my faith, my friends. And I guess I was really lost. And I guess, you know I went through that for a good 3 4 years until, fortunate enough, my ex-wife, Megan, she was able to, um, even though we had split up, hold me accountable for some of these things. And I'm so grateful for that. Even to this day, full transparency. I still take hair follicle tests to make sure I'm on the right path, and most people would be upset about that, but I'm grateful for it. I have somebody looking out for me. It's made me a better man. It's made me a better father, better co-parent. I have, a better boyfriend. I mean, I'm just grateful for people in my life that actually care.
Mm.
I have a great support system, my great friends like yourself, my family, my teammates. I just think that you really are who you surround yourself with, and the worst thing you can do for yourself is when you're going through something, is to shut yourself out.
Mm.
That's the worst thing you can do. You need to reach out to people who really care about you. And that goes back to you surrounding yourself with the right people, because if you do reach out, you want that person reaching out to you, you want them to have your back.
Mm.
So I just encourage you guys to literally check in on your loved ones, check in on your friends. Don't be afraid to be like, just, hey, how you doing? How you really doing? Like, I just want you to know that I care about you. I'm here for you. Um, I just recently found out yesterday that one of my great friends, uh, teammate in football, uh, hung himself yesterday. Uh, Similar story than I had a lot of concussions, was dealing with a lot of shit, got caught up in, the wrong things, was dealing with his emotions through, unfortunately, drugs and alcohol. And I thought he had his life back on track. He's doing all the right things. He was, going to meetings, and he was surrounding himself with the right people. He got a great girlfriend. And then, yeah, I mean, out of nowhere, I get a call and find out, you know, he hung himself, and that's tough. I mean, those are the worst calls you can receive. And then you always ask yourself, how could I have helped? What could I have done? And I just find myself in those same moments. But fortunately, I had good people around me to pull me out of those moments. But I just encourage everyone who's listening, and you've been awesome for me. I've never been better myself, and because I have great people around me. But don't be afraid to check in on people. It's important.
Mm. I'm so sorry to hear about your friend, man. That sucks.
Yeah.
Absolutely sucks.
Yeah, I don't mean to bring it down, but
No,
I'm
no.
just trying to create some awareness around people. I mean, here's the thing: is the last time I talked to him, it was everything was good.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know.
You
You
just
know.
don't know. You just don't know. And to your point, that is why it's so important to check up on people and ask how they're really doing.
Mhm.
What can I do for you? And you said so much there. I mean, the journey to where you are today, like I'm so proud of the evolution of Tyler Starr and how locked in and dialed you are, because I know what you had to overcome to get to this place, man. And you're right. You are the sum total of the people that you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people who are ambitious, who have high character, um, who are living morally and are doing the right things, they are only going to lift you up and encourage you. If you're around people who are partying all the time, or who are negative, or are gossiping and talking shit, you're going to inevitably adopt that energy, and it's going to rub off on you. And then that's going to take away from whatever dream you're pursuing. And so you have to be so picky to pick the people who you surround yourself with. It's absolutely necessary to spend the time and to cut the people out that aren't right for you, that aren't picking you up, that aren't helping you to get to your goal of who you want to be, or what career you want to pursue, or the type of man you want to be. And getting back to how you suffered with addiction after retiring from the NFL. I mean, one, I can only imagine that's somewhat of a common experience for many people as professional athletes transitioning out, or who got their careers cut short. But here's the thing: is, to your point, you've been playing the sport for 15 to 20 years. It's what you love to do. It's what you're best at. You're passionate about. It fills you up with passion and adrenaline each and every day, and then that's taken away from you, and then all those emotions, all that passion, all that energy is just gone. And so what happens is you try to fill yourself up with that energy, fill yourself up with that passion. What's the easiest way to do that? drugs, alcohol, medications, because it numbs you from not feeling what you're actually feeling. And it's these short bursts of dopamine that are band-aids to cover up what you're actually feeling and to somewhat get back that feeling and that adrenaline and that dopamine rush that you experienced when playing. So that, I think, is something, to your point, that has to be talked about a lot more and bring awareness to. And that's why I'm stoked that you're being honest and vulnerable right now, because I think it's so important to hear.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. Because also, I think that as far as sports science has come and sports psychology, I was fortunate enough to have a um, great professor down at USD to kind of work me through those classes. And, I kind of went through them and just kind of been paying attention to it. As an athlete, you're kind of just going through the motions. Like I'm here for football,
Yeah.
but I reflect often on those class and this professor here in my sport management, my sports science class, and uh, I think we need to understand like how life can really change in an instant, especially for these guys. They don't understand it. I mean, I don't know if you remember being, 18-year-old kid going to USD,
Mm-hmm.
getting all excited, like we're gonna play football, we're playing on ESPN this week,
Yeah.
some of those exciting things, and then you get there, and the next thing you know, your 4 years fly by, and it's just everything that you thought that was gonna happen in your life, you're starting to figure out like, oh, it might not be playing out like it's gonna play out, and I hate to bring it up, but you know how in the college world now this NIL stuff is crazy. It's these kids are getting all sorts of money, which I'm an advocate for. I think that the NCAA is doing the right thing. I just think it needs to be regulated. I think that like we need to like allocate some of these NIL funds, some of these donations to these kids to be taking care of, what's the well-being of this athlete. Like, yeah, okay, we're just throwing money at them, but like, you know, okay, so now who's responsible for distributing these funds? Who's responsible for how these kids are spending these funds? How much should they be allocated to spend at one time? Is anybody asking these questions? Is anybody overseeing how this is affecting these kids? You know, because I was there. I mean, my freshman year, I worked at Masaba Mining and Machinery Equipment on Highway 50 outside of Vermilion, and I was working from six a.m. to 6 p.m. my freshman year at USD, and by the grace of God, Coach Myercourt came in there like halfway through the summer. And he's like, "No, you're not doing this." He's like, "Get out of here." He goes, "We'll get you something else. Like, figure it out." Like, so because I had a son in the way, so I'm trying to navigate this whole situation. But we're handing these kids out all this money, but like, what about like creating a position? Like taking 10% of this NIL donation, right, and creating a position for somebody to be a player personnel agent or a player engagement agent, or like it's just focusing. Hey, this is our guy for football, and he's going to focus on the well-being of these kids, right? For instance, a guy like me, I got access to the NFLPA, right? I have the experience. I know what it's like to get there, and I also know what it's like to leave suddenly. And that's the life for a lot of NFL guys. And just trying to help them navigate. Hey, hey, are you in a relationship? Hey, how's it going? Is it going okay? It's not going good? Okay, you know what? I know a couple great counselors I can get you hooked up with. Hey, you just got a great NIL deal. Do you have a financial advice? What's your plan? Do you have a bank account? How's this going? Is it going directly to you? Is it one cash payment? Is it going to be, deposit in your account? I mean, where's this money going? What are you going to do with it? Setting up with financial advisors, and then also just like how you're doing on the field, and just that journey to the NFL, and also life after football. I mean, like all this money is coming in and coming in and coming in, which is great because I think these athletes deserve it, 100%. But we have to like, look a little bit past like these are young guys, these are young men who have barely experienced life. Their whole life has been high school, and then in football in high school, and then college now. Like that's been their whole life. They're pretty green. They haven't had the loves, had the losses, had the wins, had the big losses. So what I like my dream position would be to find a university, and call it home and really just I have a passion for helping these kids maybe bypass some of the mistakes, the heartbreaks, the struggles that I have in my life, and using my experience and my resources to help these kids, become the best versions of themselves.
Mhm.
Teach them how to surrender their ego at a young age and understand that they're a part of something a lot bigger than their themselves. And just give them some quality of life and some opportunity that they deserve.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, we obviously didn't have the luxury of the NIL deals. Otherwise, we likely would have transferred and we would have likely made a lot more money earlier in our lives. But such is life. But without that, if we would have had this player personnel engagement person that was solely focused on us as athletes becoming the best version of ourselves, not only on the field, but off the field. Someone who could talk through our problems, that could help motivate us when we were feeling down, that could help us navigate life after football. That would have been so powerful. And I think at the FBS level, at these Power Five schools and these big universities, I think they have that position. But in order for these FCS schools to be able to compete and to be able to provide the same value that these FBS players are getting to the FCS players, they're going to need to bring on this position like what you're talking about. Because again, that gap is it was decreasing over a lot of years, FBS to FCS, but now with the NIL, it's going to start going right back away unless the FCS teams take it in their own hands and one, raising significant funds via NIL, which is going to be a big problem in and of itself. But if they can bring on a player personnel person, that's going to help with retention. If I'm as a player and not getting paid the big bucks, but I love the team and I've got this player personnel guy like yourself to help be a sounding board for me and to help me do what's best, that's going to make me want to stay more. And you're going to look at this position as this is my mentor. He's coaching me through this. So it's going to help retain players. It's going to help your players perform better. And so I hope to God that you were able to step into that position because one, you would crush it. Two, you talk about unique ability, what you'd love to do and what you're best at. You excel within the football realm and you be able to use your experience from the NFL and the college and then what you experience after college to be able to insert that knowledge into these kids. Like, shit, man. I don't know if there's any other better thing that you could have been put on this earth for.
Hey man, I first of all I appreciate that big time. And just to kind of like tie into what you're saying here is for instance, let's just say down at University of South Dakota, we have great program, great coach, great AD. JR, he's in charge of the Brotherhood, which is a lot of alumni uh, football former players
Mhm.
here. And he and I have been talking like, hey, how can we work through this and really take care of our players. And I think that as we're understanding that this is becoming more of a business, we have to understand all the parties involved. Is not only can we create athlete retention, but we can just create wellness through our athletes. Okay, so let's just for instance say, you create a great experience for the athlete here, and you take care of him, right? He doesn't just hit the transfer portal and is gone. Right, he's loyal to the university, right? So what's that going to do? Okay, increases his chances of maybe playing professional or becoming a successful man because he had great mentors and great leaders in his life. And and from a university standpoint, how do you read that? Well, if somebody's having success in their life, and had a great experience at your university, it's gonna create loyalty at the university. So maybe that's somebody can help create even more efficiencies and more effectiveness and help donate back to the university. And I don't know, maybe one day that person decides they want to have a family and and that their boy or girl sees loyalty in that university and the cycle continues, and I just think that as much and as easy it is to fall in love with the material things about having nice things, being able to drive a nice car, live in a nice house, I think that's all great. But if you're not doing well as a person, as a human, I think that's the wealthiest thing you can have is just being comfortable with who you are in your own skin, surrounding yourself with people that you love, believing in something bigger than yourself, and just really trying to put a lot more love back in the world. I think that's real wealth at the end of the day.
That is absolutely real wealth. And I think about it all the time in regards to what I do with EOS and how it could be applied in college athletics. And, obviously, I work with medium sized businesses, hoping to build structure, getting the right people in the right seats, getting the business to be run on data and having the right measurables to track so you can keep an absolute pulse on the health of the business, solving issues, setting up processes and systems, mapping out the vision for where they're going. I often think of if there's ever a time where I will start to work with college programs and implementing EOS to help build that structure, to get the right people in the right seats, and to get it running like a well-oiled machine. And so, for you and I, who have now been in the business world for many, many years, I think so many lessons and applications are relevant in the college athletics world. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in my future. It's not something I envision in the next year or two, but I could see that coming full circle down the line.
Well, I think that's a great idea, honestly, because so I'm going on to I know I've experienced EOS through my previous employer, and I've seen it had some great success. I think that the instruments and the structure behind it are only great for team building and business growing. And now we're about to with my second business here, and we're gonna incorporate it here shortly. And I think there's a lot of comparables, not only in business but in the construction industry, and certainly college athletics. Is the biggest thing is creating these systems, holding people accountable, having a vision, right? Creating something, because you can just send somebody off on a mission, but if he doesn't know where he's going, he's never going to get there. So, like, that's what EOS does is creating this vision, putting the right people in the right seats, creating this plan and the structure behind it, and having this and everybody working towards one goal. It's no different than that Super Bowl team we had with Dan Quinn, right? You have to create this vision, right, within a team, have everybody buy into it, have everybody accountable, put the systems in place, and success is inevitably going to happen. You know what? You might not win a Super Bowl, but it's going to give you your best shot.
Mm.
100%.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's about creating accountability, creating that vision for where you want to go. Here's the roadmap of where we want to go to get there, and then we need to do the small things right each and every single day to be able to reach that. Sometimes it's not sexy, sometimes it's not pretty, but the thing is to your point, organizations overcomplicate all these operations instead of just sticking to what they do best, doing it really, really freaking well, and doing it day in and day out, and holding their people accountable to do those things day in and day out to the best of their abilities. That's what creates success long term. And so, no, I'm thrilled to hear you've had success with EOS and your businesses, and look forward to hopefully working with you and your new organization on it moving forward. But Ty, you're a father of three, two boys and a beautiful daughter. How do you manage your professional career along with being an awesome dad? And what do your kiddos mean to you?
I think the biggest thing, like, is understanding who you are as a person and who you want to be. Uh, my top priority is being the best father I can be. My greatest accomplishments are my children. Um, I had a son when I was 19 years old, and it completely changed my life and really turned my whole entire trajectory of my life around. And I've had my ups and downs. I've been a great dad, and I've had my moments of being a poor father. And now I think that I'm in a really good place, and all I want to do is show them the way, share with them the experience I've had, and teach them about the important things in life. uh, Believing in something bigger than yourself, having creating discipline and awareness in your life, and then having intention with everything you do.
Mm.
Um, my kids are my world. I'm so fortunate to have great people in my life, great family, um, great co-parents, and I'm just really excited to see all the things they're going to accomplish. That's going to completely topple anything that I've ever done. They're gonna be great kids and have great success, and I'm really looking forward to having a front seat to that.
Mm, mm, mm. Fantastic, man. Well, from what I can see at this stage in your life, you're a great father. I know you're all in on it. I hit you up sometimes to go and hang out and do stuff, and you're like, "No, man, with my kids, I'm locked in." And it's just cool to see your evolution as a father. And I don't have any kids yet, but I absolutely want 3 to 4 is my goal.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But it's great to see you as a friend and to have you who have gone through it. And I'll lean on you as a mentor in that space in the future. But one of my last questions I like to ask all my guests is, the name of the podcast is called Willpower. What does the word willpower mean to you?
Willpower to me means being able to do what's necessary. Maybe not what you want to do, maybe not what you'd like to do, but doing what's necessary to keep moving forward, right? To stay on the path. Right? Sometimes it might be hard, sometimes it might be easy, but doing whatever's necessary to becoming the best version of yourself and having that willpower to continue to stay that path.
Mm, that was gold, man. That was gold. Uh, to do what is necessary, not what you want to do always, not what is just easy, not what is always difficult, but what is necessary.
Yeah.
Period. What is necessary to get from point A to point B? I'm dreaming about point B.
Mhm.
Am I willing to do what is necessary?
Mhm.
That is the willpower. Because you're going to wake up with days where you're shooting out of sleep. You're going to wake up days where you're sick, where you've got relationship issues, where you've got professional issues. But point B is the destination. That's where I'm going. When I'm facing adversity, when things aren't pretty, am I going to do what is necessary to get there?
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome, dude. Well, appreciate you being on, bro.
Awesome. This is awesome. Always happy to be here.
Yes. Well, we had some issues with the microphone, so I hope that it turned out well. But appreciate you, man. Much love, and we'll catch you next time.
Time, man.